Hello again, everyone. My name is Ishel Peirot, and as part of the ICIS Communication Committee, we continue doing this series of infant community interviews to get to know the members of our community a little better. I am truly honored to welcome Dr. Ana Carmiol from the University of Costa Rica, who is also the 2026 ICIS Program Chair. Remember that the meeting will be held in Panama City. And hi, Anna, and welcome to this space.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time for this interview. So we can start by you can tell us about the place where you conduct your studies, a little bit about your research group and the main lines of research you are working on.
Sure. Well, I'm a professor at the Department of Psychology and a researcher at the Institute for Psychological Research at the University of Costa Rica. I've been working at the University of Costa Rica since 2008 after I completed my graduate studies in developmental psychology at Clark University in the United States. In my lab, I primarily mentor undergraduate students from the Department of Psychology of my university. And as you know, Costa Rica is a very small country, so the community of researchers who are focusing on the study of infancy and early childhood is a little bit small, is a little bit limited. So this has motivated me to actively build connections with research groups from other areas, for example, Latin America and also other places around the world. These collaborations have allowed us to participate in different cross-cultural initiatives over the years. And of course, this has been very rich and stimulating. And I really hope that we can continue having these kind of experiences in the future. I have always been interested in how context shapes early development, especially how family interactions support language and literacy. While I previously studied preschoolers, I am now focusing on infants in their second year. And the reason for that is that in Costa Rica, most children spend their early years at home, and this is because there is limited access to childcare or any kind of early education programs before the age of 4. In my current research, I focus on the context of book sharing. This activity has been shown in other cultural contexts to support language growth, and studying it in Costa Rica allows us to see how families adapt these practices. It also helps us understand how everyday book sharing can foster early language development, even in a country with a very long tradition of public education, but where access to children's books at home is often limited.
Wow, that's really amazing. I think it is a really important work that you are doing. And what can you tell us about the key findings or the highlights of the results from these studies?
Sure. Well, in our most recent study, we examined how maternal book sharing relates to early vocabulary development in 15 to 17-month-olds in Costa Rica. This is especially relevant here, where, as I indicated before, access to books and formal literacy experiences is often limited during infancy. So understanding whether the well-established link between book sharing and vocabulary holds in this context is important. It's important not only for us here in Costa Rica, but also for theory building in areas such as developmental psychology. We found that maternal book sharing was positively linked to infants' expressive vocabulary. This aligns with research from other cultural contexts and highlights the potential of book sharing to support early language development, even in environments with limited access to books. We also looked at whether child gender played a role in this relationship. Interestingly, the link between book sharing and receptive vocabulary was stronger for girls than it was for boys. So previous research has shown that caregivers often have specific expectations about how boys and girls should behave. And they sometimes perceive boys as more active and sometimes harder to engage in activities such as book sharing. At the same time, we know that in many Latin American contexts, shared reading is seen as a formal school-like activity. You only read because you need to do something for school. And when you look at the interaction between caregivers and children, what you see is that the adult always leads the reading, and the child is expected to sit still and listen. So these two factors, the expectations about children's behavior and the expectations about how reading should occur could help explain why child gender moderates the relationship between book sharing and vocabulary. So, building on these results, our current research is exploring whether providing families with children's books, along with brief guidance on how to make the most of book sharing, can support both infants' vocabulary and mothers' reading practices. We're especially interested in whether access to books encourages mothers to produce more language. For example, more words, more utterances, and more questions while reading with their children. So we're now in the process of analyzing this data, and we'll hopefully have some results to share in the upcoming ICIS conference in Panama City.
That's great. That's really, really great. And what motivated you to begin working in infant research?
That's a good question. Well, you know that Latin America is one of the most unequal regions in the whole world, and these inequalities start affecting children's developmental trajectories very early on. I am motivated by wanting to understand how these early experiences shape development and to find ways to help families support their infants. Most parents, if you ask them, they have very high hopes for their children, but they don't always know what kind of experiences will help them thrive. So working with families to create those opportunities is what really inspires me.
No, that's really interesting. And also book sharing, I mean, that you, with your research or science-based research, can help families to improve the cognitive abilities in reading and language too. It is really,
Yes.
really amazing.
Yeah, it really motivates me to to work with the families, to hear what they're struggling with, and to try to find ways to help them support their children.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any advice for students interested in this field?
Sure. Well, my advice for students is to always try to stay curious, to place close attention to the context in which infants are growing up, because understanding infants means understanding their families, their communities, and their cultures. And I would also tell students to remember why we do this kind of work. Research on infants can have real impacts on families, on their communities, especially in contexts where access to resources is limited or unequal. So let your research be guided by curiosity, but also by a sense of purpose and social responsibility.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing those advices. How do you like to spend your time outside research?
Well, when I'm not doing research, I enjoy swimming. I like swimming very much. I like cooking at home and also reading. I like reading novels. We have great authors here in Latin America, but we also, there are so many great things around the world. I also like no longer essays. So whenever I had a chance, I like to read. And I also have a 15-year-old son, and he has very diverse interests. So I spend a lot of my free time trying to support him in exploring his hobbies. And yeah, that's basically, what I try to do outside of my work of doing science.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
I would like to invite everybody to come to the upcoming ICIS conference in Panama City. We're really trying to put together a program that is open, that is diverse, and that is taking context seriously. And I really believe that it's very important to consider the context when you're trying to understand infancy and infant development.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share your experiences with the ICIS community. And to our audience, don't forget to submit your work. Thanks, and I hope we meet again soon.
Sure. It was nice having this conversation, and I really hope to see you at ICIS conference.
Thank you so much.